Welcome to Meeple, uniting players around the world. A 30-minute exploration of PJ and Gareth's board game experiences from across both sides of the Atlantic. Each episode, they share their thoughts and opinions on the world of board games, including their favourite themes, games, hot topics, and much, much more.
Welcome to episode 30. BGG top 25 in focus. Cream of the crop. Gareth, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm great. Now that I get to see you, this is amazing. I'm excited.
So yeah, if anyone who is listening to the podcast, we have turned on video recording this week. So you'll find this in a channel somewhere once we've worked out where we're going to publish it. So welcome to episode 30. So this week's topic has been selected because anyone who's probably been looking at BoardGameGeek or is aware of the ranking system on BoardGameGeek, which is a very popular website for board game enthusiasts.
Yes,
there's
indeed.
been a few. There's been a dethroning of a game that I think's been in place for the last, I'm going to say 5 years, but it
2017.
Wow. So far, yeah, 6 years nearly.
Yeah,
at least 5 years. So Gloomhaven has been knocked off the top spot and has been replaced by Brass that's got into first place. But not only that, Gloomhaven's dropped to third place. Now, some people might say that there's been a bit of what's the word? Vote rigging going on.
A little bit.
Or terrible scoring of ones and tens as the two tribes, the Brass Birmingham lovers and the Gloomhaven lovers, have either scored a 10 for their most loved game or a 1. Review bombing, that's the word I'm looking for.
It has definitely been a contentious week between the two camps, right?
Yeah. If you care, though, because the Board Game Geek rankings, obviously, is just a person's view.
Exactly.
And some of the scores are great. But we thought we'd maybe share, I guess, our thoughts on how we rank those board games. Well, not those games, but how we rank games and what makes a good game. And then we have both gone through the top 25 and found 5 games between us that we both have. And we're going to reveal what I've scored them. And you're going to reveal to me what you've scored them and see how different our opinions are. And we neither of us know those scores yet. So we'll find out just how much this relationship falls apart. When I've scored it at 1 and you've scored it at 10.
I don't know that we're going to survive the first game.
I'm not sure we are either. So if you want to hang around, we're going to talk about Gloomhaven. If we're going to talk about Brass quickly. Then Gloomhaven, Star Wars Rebellion, which is at rank number 9 currently. Scythe, which is at 16. 17, Castles of Burgundy.
Yep.
And then number 18, we've got Nemesis. So we're going to talk about those 5 games. And then as it would be remiss of us not to talk about Obsession, that's in the top 100, we will talk about that as well towards the end.
Number 89.
89. Boom. I think last time we spoke, it had got to 100. So
Yep.
Climbing up those ranks. So anyway, so what's your thoughts on this ranking drama?
It's entertaining. It's been really interesting to watch because since I started paying attention to Board Game Geek, Gloomhaven's always been at number 1, right? And now it's been dethroned, and I think it was dethroned for like a couple of hours by Brass Birmingham. I think it's important that we make that distinction as well.
Yeah.
Because that's a subsection of this discussion, right? Is there's 2 Brasses. So Brass Birmingham overthrows Gloomhaven. And then a few hours later, Gloomhaven comes back to the vote bombing or whatever review. I forgot what you just called it. Review bombing. So it was a little back and forth. And now Brass Birmingham has securely taken the number 1 spot with Pandemic Legacy Season 1 at number 2. Just kind of like, if you stay out of the fight, you just get to be in second place by default, which I enjoy that a lot. And then, of course, Gloomhaven's at number 3. So it brought up the question when we were talking about this episode and how we're going to prep for it. Is like, okay, so all of this is subjective. Why? I mean, I guess it's a testament to our community, but it's also a negative too, I think. The passion, how passionate gamers can be, whether it's for good or bad. And I think there's room either way. Is like, how do they make that distinction? Because my first question is, why care? Gloomhaven and Brass Birmingham are such vastly different games. I would never make this comparison, right? Like, why do I have to choose? Because I happen to like one and I also like the other, and they're just so different. So, and yet it's drum up so much passion that people are like actively voting and reviewing and trying to keep it in the
Too
what I'm
much
saying?
time on their hands.
Yeah,
Too much time.
okay,
Seriously.
fair point. But it's interesting to think about. To be fair,
I think I mean, when I first started using BoardGameGeek, I think it was Twilight Struggle was number one, I think, and then Pandemic rose to the top, and that was sat there for a while, which is now sitting number two. And you say Gloomhaven rocked up 5 or 6 years ago. It's just like it feels like a tribal thing. It's like, I mean, I can't imagine though or maybe it can't be straight down the middle that everyone who plays Gloomhaven doesn't play Brass, and everyone who plays Brass doesn't play Gloomhaven. And certainly when I've done the rankings, I was just looking now. So obviously 1 to 10 actually has a definition. 10 being outstanding, always want to play and expect this will never change. So that game is like, if someone says, I'm going to play it, do you want to play Gloomhaven? Yes. However, Gloomhaven isn't the sort of game you just go, oh, fancy a game of Gloomhaven right now.
Right.
It requires time and investment and a group that wants to play.
Right. Whereas Brass, we could just throw it on the table right now.
So I kind of get that Brass could be a 10.
Right.
But and then a 1 defines a description of a game. You won't catch me dead playing this. There's got to be some Gloomhaven fans who play Brass, if we're being purist on the scoring. Apart from that, it's just a childish. Let's see who's got the better game.
Based on that
some drama.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Based on that description of a number one, a 1 ranking, you and I should talk about that one day. I think that should be another episode.
I've only looked this afternoon through the top 100 and what I'd scored stuff. Have I ever scored anything 1?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes. Yes, I have.
You have?
I have.
I'm gonna have to look through the geek and see what I can find.
It's not Brass or Gloomhaven. It's a completely different game, and that's a totally different topic for another day. But so the other thing that's interesting to me, my second question, right? Besides, why do I care? These two games don't compare. They're so different. My second question is, why Brass Birmingham? And I think that's a more valid question. And no one's talking about it. I also think I'm more intrigued by the breakdown or the separation between Brass Birmingham, which came out in 2018, and it's number 1.
Yeah, but the original Brass came out.
But Brass Lancashire came out in 2007, and it's sitting at a rather humble number 20. So we could talk about it because it's in the top 25, but that's a huge disparity between two games that are ultimately the same. And so if you haven't guessed, I am a Lancashire fan.
Yeah, see, I sold my Lancashire and I'll go Birmingham. Who knows?
So,
that's an episode in its own right as well.
No,
but
I agree.
Think, I never played the original Brass, so I can't really comment on. I think Brass Birmingham was just streamlined and more accessible, which is why I think it's higher than Lancashire.
Interesting.
But feel free in the comments to let me know that I'm wrong or what I misunderstood about Brass Birmingham. I mean, what else you got? Arc Nova. I mean, that's relatively new.
Yep.
You've got Twilight Imperium, which really is quite niche.
It is, and has hit several iterations. Right, it's in its fourth edition.
Fourth edition. You got Terraforming Mars,
Gloomhaven.
I guess the one to watch would be Frosthaven.
So that's the sub. I think you've hit onto something. So it was Gloomhaven was eventually going to fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be replaced by Frosthaven.
Yeah.
So we're finishing up painting the starting miniatures for Frosthaven, and I was thinking about this relationship between the two, and it's like, so I can see, because we haven't played it yet. I mean, and only a few people have posted and shared their plays and their experience of Frosthaven so far. So, as a seasoned Gloomhaven fan, when I engage in Frosthaven, am I just going to be, because I know people have Gloomhaven fatigue, will we be fatigued and be like, oh, I don't want to keep going? Or will it reinvigorate us? And will we then start reviewing it on BGG, and will it rise to the top very quickly? Or is it going to stay in the bottom because people, so that's another question too that impacts the decline of Gloomhaven. And I think we're going to see Gloomhaven fall even further in the next few weeks.
Yeah, possibly. I think whether Frosthaven rises as rapidly in a world where there's rising living costs, so maybe not quite as accessible, because Gloomhaven was relatively expensive at the time. I'm going to say about £70 or £80 UK side, but now Frosthaven's not cheap.
No.
So have you got? Is it accessible? I know they sold a ton of copies, and I see landing, but I don't know. It'd be an interesting one to watch.
Frosthaven broke the records on Kickstarter.
Right? That's right. No, you're right. Yeah.
Massive records. So, okay. So Gloomhaven, right? That is our number. That's number 3. It's so what did you score Gloomhaven?
I scored it a 1. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. It wasn't me. So this game is. So I've previously owned this. I sold my copy on. I've scored it a 4.
Oh,
and I'll explain in a minute why.
Oh,
what did you score it?
That hurts. I scored it at an 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah, I love Gloomhaven. Again, it's not a 10 based on the description, right?
Yeah.
It's a long-term commitment. Also, my perception of Gloomhaven is skewed because we got it just before the pandemic. So our little pandemic bubble during 2020 and 2021, we were able to get together because we were all being safe and everything. So we had a group. And so we were able to commit the time and breeze through Gloomhaven. But I've played through Gloomhaven twice, start to finish. So I really enjoyed it. To play it twice, that's a huge commitment in and of itself. But that's why it's not a 10. I gave it an 8.5. I think it's currently sitting at 8.401 is its current rating right now.
Yeah, 8.40.
So, yeah. But you did not enjoy it nearly as much, and you gave it a 4.
I did enjoy it. So we started playing it with a friend who unfortunately moved all the way to New Zealand. So that didn't help the Gloomhaven group. Okay. And then it just sat on the shelf. Compared to now, we didn't have a group like we have today. So maybe my views were different, but when the group are together, we like to play variation. Right. So it's not a game I don't want to get invested in. And I mean, a 4 is not so good. It doesn't get me, but I could be talked into playing it once in a blue moon. But if I've got a fixed amount of time every week to play games, I'm not knocking. I get it. I enjoyed it when I played it, but actually there's other games. I mean, there's many, many more games out there. Yeah. So it got scored a 4, and I haven't edited these. So I looked and went, oh, at least it wasn't a 1. That's all I can say. It was me. So it's got a 4. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't back Frosthaven.
And of course I did. So
yeah. So I knew the first one was going to be an interesting one for compare and contrast.
To be fair, I think if you're comparing just yours and my difference in Gloomhaven, my wife loved Gloomhaven and was part of my group, right? So much so that when Frost came in, like, there was never a debate. She told me we're backing Frosthaven when it comes out on Kickstarter. I didn't get a say.
That's the kind of partner you need in life. You are backing it.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's fine because it's great. And we've been watching it, all the drama that. The other thing too is, I mean, we could spend a whole episode just talking about the drama that unfolded through the whole campaign of Frosthaven, right? But that's another story for another day. But we stuck with it, and now we're painting the minis, and we might actually get started next month in March, which would be great.
I love the dedication to not starting a game until the minis are painted.
Yeah, no, we do not play with unpainted miniatures. Like, that's just, But I also have a partner who's going to paint them. So let's be fair.
So moving on to Star Wars Rebellion.
Yes.
So
2016 by Corey Konitska. Number nine on BoardGameGeek, and it's a 2-player.
You can play a team game. Never tried it.
Haven't tried it.
I don't think I ever will. But as a 2-player, I love this game.
Love it.
Like, so only play it with my daughter. My wife is a non-Star Wars fan. And generally any space themes, but then actually she'll play loads of games which are space related. It must be the Star Wars theme. But as a 2-player game, I've never won this game because I always play the Imperials and my daughter always plays the Rebels. And she's brutal. That's it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I must try harder.
That is interesting.
Clearly, I mean, it's been close. Every game is down to one planet away, or I get to where she's just moved the Rebel base.
Yep.
As a storytelling, living and breathing Star Wars, I guess that episode 4-ish, 5-ish timeline.
Oh yeah,
it hits the mark every time.
Every time.
And I scored this a 9.
Did you?
Yeah.
So did I.
Did you?
I did. I did. Yes.
Did you?
It's solid. It's a solid, great 2-player game. Everything you said. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah.
Just epic.
The only thing that could stop it being a 9 is it's quite a long game.
3 hours.
3 hours.
From the time you open the box to you pick it up.
Yeah.
So that from start to finish, it's about 3 hours, which is great though because I got to play. And
my usually it's when my wife is working or we got a bit of spare time.
Yep.
It's Rebellion, and I'm like, let's lose again.
Yeah, so we both agree a 9, and it's at 8.16, right?
Yep.
Currently at number 9, Star Wars Rebellion. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3. So we went down the list a little bit because it was trying to find games that we both owned. So we get to number 16, which is Scythe from 2016.
Jamie Stegmaier, our dear friend. Yeah. Oh, Scythe is so good. Scythe is in my top 5 within my collection.
Oh, wow. Okay. This would be interesting.
Yeah.
It's not in my top 9, but I do like a game of Scythe.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. It's one of the first games where when we were introduced to it, it was just a beautiful experience, so that my wife was like, we need to get this. Oh, we need to get the legendary box. We need the expansions. We need the insert. We need everything. Wait, now we're going to paint all these miniatures. Yes. I mean, it's so good. We play it at 2 players and we will just, huge table presence, but who cares? Got all the cool resources.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to bling that board game out.
I mean, you got the worker placement. You've got it feels like, because of the map, it feels like Risk. It's like, games like Risk, right, with the big maps feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to play on a big map, but Risk is a terrible execution.
Yeah.
But Scythe is so much better. I mean, you can even avoid combat. I think that was the thing that got both my wife and I is we played Scythe and there was no combat. Or if there is combat, you don't take your units off the board. They just go back to your home.
Well, it's one of those things you have to explain to people because, like you say, you open a box up and you set it up, and people think mechs and hexes and war.
Yeah,
and actually, it's more of a deterrent.
Yes,
of war. I mean, you can go aggressive if you want to.
You can.
So, we got one friend who doesn't like playing it because he really thought he was going to be there fighting and lots of battling, and actually, he spent a lot of time farming and gathering resources.
Right.
A bit I enjoy, which is a lot in a lot of Jamie's games, is that race element, because the game starts to build, it gets faster, people start acquiring the objectives, it does race, and suddenly it's boom, and it's like, oh man,
and there it is.
So what did you score?
I scored it at an 8.5 as well.
I gave it a 7.5.
Okay.
But only because I think in our group, it's kind of 4 or 5. We don't generally play it 2, partly because I feel as if it's better with more players on the board. But that's the only reason it got. It's just so if me and Carrie played it quite a bit, I think it would get an 8, 8.5.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad game. I love it.
Yeah.
But in terms of overall game collection, it's a 7.5.
I think the reason why it's still in the top 20 on BGG is that modular board that makes the 2-player, because now the board is smaller and more compact. And
the modular board is awesome. The whole components is typical.
And it is currently sitting at an 8.02 on BoardGameGeek, right?
Yeah. So we're not, neither of us are far off our kind of, I guess, the average. Castles of Burgundy. So this is a 2011 game. Now this game we play this two players. I don't even know if I've played it with more. I'd have to go and look at the stats. It won't be very often. So this is dice rolling, tile placement game. I'll try and describe it. That is currently on the back of a Game Found super deluxe upgrade with hexes and minis, which I have backed at full pledge level. But we love this at 2-player. It's fast. It's just the right mix of, I guess, dice with the luck, but you can mitigate some of that luck with the shillings. I can't remember what they're called, but you got the
silver,
something,
whatever.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Castle Burgundy. How about you?
Not at all.
Unbelievable. No. Even as 2-player.
No. My wife loves it. I hate it. I mean,
what's the?
So every time we play, and because my wife loves it, so that's the other thing too. Is like if I would rate a game at a 1 or a 2, if my wife loves it, it's automatically a 6, right, or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so it's like I want her to be happy. She loves this game, so we're gonna play it every single time. Halfway through the game, I got a migraine. I'm miserable. I'm like, why are we playing this? Why did I agree to this? And there's not many times where this happens, but
I'm surprised.
Well, and the other thing that frustrates me is that there are people who I love and who I respect, yourself and others in the UK, who absolutely love this game at 2 players. And I'm like, what am I not getting? I'm missing something. And so I give it a go.
You clearly are, yeah. Every man to himself on which game he likes.
We are selling it this year. We're getting rid of it because it doesn't hit the table because I don't like it.
My cardboard version is in the for sale pile. I'm looking at it now because they obviously I think it's got loads of expansions. Like it's been loads of packs and extra tiles, which I've managed to acquire over the time. But again, this game we started playing in 2012, so this was really early on.
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's probably a little bit nostalgic love for this game because we were just entering the world of board games in 2012. This got into our collection quite early on. So again, as new gamers, and it was 2-player, it worked a treat. So yeah, I scored it I scored it an 8.
And I scored it at a 4.
There you go. That's quite a good balance compared to. I mean, consistent on the Gloomhaven and.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely right. Yeah,
I love it.
This one frustrates me because so many people enjoy it, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, right? Like, why am I not? Why am I not enjoying it? I love Feld. Feld's games are epic. We picked this up for cheap because the deluxe version had come out. So we got it late in our entrance into the hobby. So there's so many other games, and I'm like, my wife loves it.
That's why it needs the deluxe upgrade because it is. I mean, most of Feld's games look a little bit
that is true.
Yeah, so let's see where it ends up with the upgrade. So the final one of the 5 is Nemesis 2021, which we have talked about on this show.
Yeah,
probably a few times.
Adam Kopinski, Awaken Realms. Yep, love it.
I'm just gonna come out. I gave it a 10.
Did you? I gave it a 9.8.
Oof.
I gave it a 9.8.
I give it a 10 because every time we played this, I have a story to tell.
Oh yeah.
Like whether it's ships being blown up and people waving goodbye to me, or it's that close encounter with the last alien before you've got rid of the nest. But every game tells a story. And that's what's so important to me. If that experience of sat with a group of 4 or 5 of us can tell the story years and months afterwards,
yes,
that is a game that I'll happily play and will always have in my collection.
Oh yeah, I'll never get rid of it. Right? Never. This is a game where not only do we have the Void Seeders expansion, the Carnomorphs expansion, the Aftermath expansion. I just recently bought off of Etsy a 3D printed thing that holds the small cards, the item cards, and keeps it nice and neat. I bought one that keeps all the large cards nice and neat. I got the dashboard for the intruder mat, and all the tokens. So yeah. Now why didn't I rank it as a 10? Because there's one game. There's one game that hits the 10 mark that I would play more than Nemesis. Not by much, but yeah.
Let's see what that is in a minute. So, so that's the 5 that we match. Obviously, there's loads more. We could talk about this for hours, and I think at some point we could need to do our board game. We should need to do our top 100 at some point.
Here's the question for you, though. So you ranked it at a 10. I ranked it at a 9.8. It's sitting at 7.97 and at a humble number 18 on BoardGameGeek. So what is it that we know, you and I, we need to tell the world to get Nemesis to jump?
I think it's gaming group, group, time. I mean, thematically, space and aliens. That's probably not engaged some of the gamers. I think there's quite a bit of. See, these were Kickstarters, weren't there? Been a couple of editions.
But you could see it in retail. You see it in retail now.
It's not cheap, is it? At retail,
it's not.
It's a game that I ignored for a long time. So probably because of the gaming group, and I just went, it's miniatures on a board, and then eventually, can't remember who was talking to me about it, but I was like, okay, I'm going to get this. So and then it's ranked. It's gone up my ranking rapidly in the last 18 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 years.
So here's what I think is interesting. It is semi-cooperative. So if you love trader mechanics,
that's a good point. The trade's a bit.
It's there.
Yeah, conflict averse people may not enjoy this,
but it can be 100% cooperative.
Yeah, but it's not as fun
if you like co-op, right? And then there's again, like I said, semi-co-op, right? So there may not be a trader mechanic, and then it's not a true trader mechanic. It's got a blend of it all. So I feel like it appeals mechanically. The game appeals to a wide audience, and you shouldn't let the miniatures intimidate you. They're just beautiful on a board. And it's tile flipping, so there's exploration and just
I think it might be a trader mechanic, even though its co-op is okay.
Right.
No,
co-op is great.
No, it shines with that traitor.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree because
that's why it's 0.2 different.
No, yeah. The other thing too is if you play fully cooperative, that means that the ship survives. You can then play Aftermath.
Oh yeah, of course.
That epilogue feature. So it's like you get to play the full game.
Still not tried that. Still not tried that. Still not tried it.
So good.
Okay, so every week we add in a little extra, and this week we've gone for a game that we have talked about. I reckon 28 of 30 episodes we've mentioned Obsession.
Yes.
So it'll be not remiss of us to not talk about Obsession, which is now in the top 100.
Sitting at number 89.
89. Now, this is a 10 for me. 10. Additional 10.
By 10.
Listeners, I haven't got many 10s. So there's, 10 is hard to get. But Obsession sits there.
It really does.
Mix of the thematics, the design of the game, the components,
the story.
Dan, the designer, gets a 10 for just being Dan and the most open, accessible designer that I've ever had the privilege to speak to or work with or engage. It just deserves to have more love, and I hope it continues to rise up into that top 10.
I completely
believe
agree.
it belongs. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
If you haven't checked it out, again, when it first got released on the first Kickstarter, I was like, it's some English Downton Abbey, if you know who that is, kind of game. That's not my thing. but man, it's so not that. But
No,
it's so is.
but it
in that.
is.
But it is. But it isn't.
But it
isn't. It's a wonderful tile action card playing game that has been so well balanced.
So well balanced. And an amazing solo version too.
See, I've not played solo, but you're a huge fan of the solo.
This is a game that I will play solo in a heartbeat. You know, if my wife's going to be busy painting minis, just so I can be, you know, we can be together. I'm going to sit at the table here and I'll
That's why it's 10.
Yeah.
I mean, so some sort of games just don't get interest from me.
It is solid. It is epic. Dan is great, like you said. Yeah.
And there's an expansion coming.
Yep.
There's some awesome pin badges, enamel badges. There's t-shirts.
Yeah.
Check it out. Brand
Gotta do it. Obsession.
I should get a t-shirt made. Okay. So with that, we shall wrap up another episode of Meeple to Meeple. Thank you, PJ.
Thank you.
If you're listening, please like, follow, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a future episode. And we'll be back very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Please subscribe. And as always, we love to hear your thoughts and ideas. So make sure to leave those in the comments. And don't forget, you can also chat with us both on Instagram at Meeple to Meeple.